Let's quickly take you through the headlines for today. What are the papers saying? What are the major stories? Like I said while I was actually given the introduction, you deserve to know. And right here from the Daily Times newspaper, Daily Trust, I beg your pardon, how tax reform bills put Barrow on the spot. That's on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. The staff opted for voluntary retirement. CBN staff opted for voluntary retirement, and that's amazing. When you say staff opted for voluntary retirement, something must be fishy. When you said about 100 staff are to retire, and a particular amount has been set aside for their retirement, and of course, the authorities have to frown at that to say, well, why would this number of staff be retired? This morning we're getting to know on the Daily Trust newspaper of that they have decided to retire themselves. All right, they opted for retirement. Well, the investigation is still on. We'll get to bring you more about that. Still more headlines from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. This one says it's burnt to death in Yobe Road accident. 12 burnt to death in Yobe Road accident. This is December. A lot of things needs to be done, a lot of caution. Accident is not something that anyone will ever pray for, but then we need to be careful. This is what we must do all the time. If you're traveling, please speak to the drivers. Some of them are very angry when you talk to them, especially when they are not driving, when they are being reckless. Let me use the word reckless. Some of them drink and they drive. It's not good to be drunk on the steering because, you know, you're carrying, let's take for instance, a bus, a 12-seater bus, 14-seater bus, or maybe a Sienna carrying like 8 persons, 7 persons, or let's just say maybe a saloon car carrying like maybe a 4 or 5, you know, and just the carelessness of one person is causing a whole lot to families. That's not a good one. So we should try as much as possible. The Federal Road Safety Corps are doing their best. The sanitization is going on, and we should try as much as possible to be careful. This is festive period. All right, we should not allow ourselves to be used so that at the end of the day we'll not say, hey, come on, it was the devil. We need to be very careful ourselves. All right. Now to the big story on the Daily Trust newspaper, which says Senate AGF to review tax reform bills today. A whole lot happening. It's going to form part of our discussion today. The tax reform, a lot of reactions, matters arising from every nook and cranny of the country, from the young, the old.
If I already go to the event, I say make you do I go come meet my reach office. I go carry camera. I fly in that motor. The car no pay transport. Now must be transport. Now since yesterday night, I don't wrap am.
The next.
He say will be 6 a.m. I say, eh? You are turning 6 a.m. Wow, I'm sure my fellow she. Oh, I can't say okay. This our glasses, they're really clean.
more headlines still coming on your way this morning, but I have my guest joining me. Ogonoye Olalekan is joining me, and he's going to be analyzing the paper. Good morning, Mr. Olalekan. All right. It's good to have you. Let's just go on the headlines and see what will happen. Well, as soon as they come on, I'll let you know. From the Daily Trust newspaper right now, let's get to the next paper, which is The Nation's newspaper. What's The Nation newspaper saying this morning? On The Nation's newspaper, I have this headline which says, Borno woman wins every home a garden 25 million naira top prize. That's so interesting this season. Details you can find on page 2. Congratulations to her. Then this one has the picture of the CBN governor. CBN explains extension of early exit plan to all workers. Details you can find on page 7 of The Nation's newspaper. It's very important. Exit plan, very important, and it's part of the reason a lot of people resign or maybe retire from active service and they don't have anything to fall back to. Then this one says Zenith Bank is a winner of 2024 Bankers Award. Another story says Abiodun presents 1.05 trillion naira 2025 expenditure plan. Details you can find on page 6 of The Nation's newspaper. Then this headline says NDLEA arrested 14,480 suspects, 6 to 24 million kilograms of illicit drugs in 10 months. Details you can find on page 5 of The Nation's newspaper. And still on The Nation's newspaper this morning, I have this story which says South Africa targets Nigeria lithium for e-vehicle revolution. South Africa targets Nigerians lithium for e-vehicle revolution. One rider to that story, and the rider says a foreign investment safe, says Tinubu. Foreign investment safe, says Tinubu, because a lot of people are even scared of coming to invest in Nigeria because of the dwindling nature of the economy. But then the president is saying it is safe. The economy is safe for investors. He's gone round. He was in France. From France, he got to South Africa, and he met with, first of all, he met with Emmanuel Macron of France, and he also met with Ramaphosa of South Africa. And he is saying here categorically that foreign investment is safe in Nigeria. So if you want to come invest in Nigeria, it is safe. The land is green, of course, so you can just take advantage of it. More headlines are still coming from The Nation's newspaper this morning. This one says tax reform bills. That's the kicker. The Senate executive in bid for consensus. All right. And of course, this one, the one writer to that story, organized private sector, tax experts, Sanwo-Olu, reform in necessity. All right, reform in necessity. That's the tax reform. And that's the reason I said a lot of people are saying so many things about this tax reform. Some persons are for, some persons are against, some persons are clamoring for an amendment, for a review, and of course, it seems the federal government is already buying to pressure, and there is a call for review already, which we told you in the first paper that it will be happening today. Let's see what's going to come out of that. As a matter of fact, it's going to form part of our discussion today when we'll have our guests join us live in the studio as we talk about that much later. Then this one says 61 aircraft to join NAF fleet next year, right? That is one writer to that story, Air Chief, says it's a golden era. That's a good one. That's good to know. I think all Nigerians are saying is curb insecurity, deal with Boko Haram, deal with the terrors. Let's have a free Nigeria. All right. I think with this aircraft, a lot will be done as it has to do with the security of the nation. And that's on the nation's newspaper. And still on the nation's newspaper, Kwara government demote teachers for stripping corps member. Details on page 5. That's what it is. A lot of people don't know that corps members are part of the society one. They are serving and they are government properties and mustn't be handled carelessly. You don't need to treat a corps member. You know, the essence of youth service, the National Youth Service Corps, is to integrate the people into the society. That's one. And of course, getting to mix up with people from other climes in the country, people from other tribes and tongues, you know, the culture of different states in Nigeria and all of that. And that's the reason you see corps members are being sent into hinterlands, places that some places they don't even speak English. You need to do so much to even teach for those of corps members that end up in the classroom. All right, I think that's the action. It's good, it's worthy. That teacher didn't do well at all. Stripping a corps member, for what reason? What's the problem? Whatever the problem is, I feel it can be handled instead of stripping a corps member. We call them, during our time, we call them federal government children. Okay, they are, as a matter of fact, they are federal government staff. That's what it is. So I think the action taken, it's actually very important. All right, let's go on a quick break. After this break, we'll have our guest join us, and of course, we'll bring you the remaining headlines. And that's going to be all from the nation's newspaper. Stay with us. have your Times newspaper. I know the head and the neck and even every part of the human system is. All right, having Queen join us right now on Global Morning. It's good to have you, Queen.
It's a pleasure to be here, Ramsey, on Global Morning.
So what we have from the Daily Times newspaper this morning, our guest will be joining us. I think he's joining via just a little technical. He shall come on. We will let you know, and he will throw some light on the major headlines. So the Daily Times newspaper saying
About the Times News. Suspense for views. Rider says constitutes committee to meet presidential team today. So we look forward to that. We saw a lot of reactions to the tax reform bills, some opposing, some in support of that bill. But I think the Senate here, the Daily Times says the reform bills have been suspended as a result of pressure to the Senate. And then we have Senate. We also have Benue killings, reduce proliferation of small arms. Senate urges security agencies as a result of killings in Benue State. The Senate is urging security agencies to reduce the proliferations of small arms. And then PRP chieftain calls for stepping down of tax reform bills. Nigeria, South Africa launch advisory council to boost trade investment. And also South Africa seeks Nigeria's lithium support. G20. South Africa seeks Nigeria's lithium and also supports G20 bid. Other stories we have here, just one more to go. We have UK to deport Nigerian pastor Toby Adegboyega. I'm sure you must have seen that story online. The story around Pastor Toby Adegboyega's a whole lot of controversy there. And I saw a video where he came out to say that he wasn't going to be deported and all of that, and that only criminals get deported and all of that, debunking the fact that he will be deported. But here the Daily Times tells us that the United Kingdom is to deport him back to Nigeria for fraud and other related offenses. These are the stories we have on the Daily Times newspaper for you.
I think that story has been making rounds, and it's a whole lot of controversies, but then there are still things that can be taken out of what is there. The system in the United Kingdom is quite different from the system that we have here. So some of the things you think you can do here and go scot-free and get away with it, you do it in the United Kingdom, and you go in for it. Instead of going away with it, you go in for it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is being deported. But then on Twitter this morning, I was seeing where he had made some statements that at least some persons should even be proud of him and of course what he's doing. But the bottom line is this: whatever happens to him, whether he's going to be deported or not, well, at the end of the day, we'll get to know how it's actually going. All right, let's move to the next point of call right here, as we will soon have our guests join us. Gole Olalekan is a public affairs analyst, and he's supposed to be analyzing the papers for us today. While Queen was going through the dailies, the Daily Times, there were some stories that actually caught my fancy there. Senate buy into pressure, and that's to tell you that There is a listening ear. That's number one. Buying to pressure is not because the Senate is scared or something. And there's something that came to my mind. Public opinion. It means whatever the government is doing that people are not satisfied with, they can actually air their voice. And a government that has a listening ear will actually listen to the plight of the people. I think that's exactly what has just happened there. Then the Benue killings. That's Queen State, of course. The killing in Benue State. I don't know. Anytime these killings happen, the first thing that comes to my mind is destruction of lives and property. We know it's not good for any state, but that of Benue State is not good at all. More so that it's been consistent and nothing has been done. We don't wait until these things happen, then we say NEMA is bringing this. Are we more interested in what they will bring or the monies that will be sent after this mayhem, after these incidences, after these attacks, after these banditry invasions, before we take action?
Over the lives of people.
Over the lives of people.
Properties of people. These people have worked hard. You know, it hits differently because you're from that state, one, and then you see people who have to flee from their communities. Imagine having to flee from your house, abandon your house. People who have built houses in the villages, who have, farmlands, livestock, where their source of livelihood, means of livelihood, move away from where, they maybe originated from, and then move to another land to go start from the beginning. So it's almost distorting. It can affect anybody, psychologically all round. How do people begin to move from having everything?
Then all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you become a stranger.
You become a stranger.
In your own land.
Or look for what you have to flee your own land.
Starting all over again.
It's painful. And it's something that has been recurring.
That's the worst aspect of it. It's not that this thing happens and a measure comes up and it doesn't happen again. It happens, and before you say Jack Robinson, before you say 1, 2, it's happening again.
Exactly.
Then you begin to ask questions. What happens to the territorial integrity of Benue State? What's happened to the borders? We remember during Otom's time, he said he is the one who protects the border. He was more conscious. Alia has been doing so well, but then is it that some persons are trying to frustrate or sabotage what Alia is doing? Because sometimes so many things can be reasoned. Nigerians are thinking right now, is it that some persons are not satisfied with what Alia is doing and they want to sabotage his administration, or they want to frustrate what he's doing? These are things we should think about. I was speaking with someone yesterday and I said, come on, these terrorists, these people who come to do these damages, are they really from the state? How did they get into the state? The other question is, how big is even Benue State that the territorial integrity, the borders of Benue State cannot be mounted by security agencies, by the vigilantes?
If not for anything, particularly because these incidences have been reoccurring time and time again, most likely at a particular point in time of the year. And these people strike, when people are not aware. They come to their farmlands.
It's a guerrilla form of attack.
It's terrible. The other time we had mass burial in Benue State. For a state to witness such pathetic burial, pathetic situation, and it's reoccurring again and again. The question is, what is Benue State doing? What are we doing? Where do we go from here? How do we put a stop to it? What measures are in place to ensure that there's never a repeat of these occurrences? Because we're tired. You look at the papers today, it's Benue State, killings in Benue State. You look at the paper tomorrow, it's Benue State, killings in Benue State. How do we begin to put a stop to it? It's not something we want to witness. It's not something we want to continue to talk about.
Before now, let me tell you, while we're growing up, okay, if a life is being lost, there is a mourning in the whole of the state. But now this era of terrorist attack, banditry, and all of that, headsmen, as the case may be, because a lot of things, people do things now and they attribute it to headsmen, they attribute it sometimes communal crisis and all of that. You know, the life of people doesn't mean so much anymore. We talked about mass burial just now. Imagine that. Watching your loved ones being buried en masse. It's painful. What do Benue State even have? It's a civil service state. Benue State used to be known as the food basket of the nation, but right now, as we speak, Benue State is no longer the food basket of the nation. And it's glaring. So I think what the authorities should do is to make sure they try everything possible to ensure this doesn't happen again, because if it keeps happening, it will become worrisome. It's already worrisome, as a matter of fact, but then the borders of Benue State needs to be protected, as a matter of fact. All right, right now we'll go on a quick break, and after this break we'll bring you the AM news. When we return again, we'll get into the first discussion for the day. Our guest couldn't join us because of technical issue for the paper analysis. So now it's time for the AM news. Do stay with us.
and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to the AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Queen Agaba. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Night Consort. The First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, says President Bola Tinubu's administration is committed to well-being of Nigerians by ensuring that all citizens access quality healthcare services. Senator Tinubu disclosed this in Abuja at the 25th anniversary of National Hospital Abuja. She stressed the importance of investing in the health of Nigerians, calling on stakeholders to reflect and contribute positively to the cause, just as she commended the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Mohammed Pati, the Chief Medical Director of the hospital, Professor Mohammed Raji, and all the staff members for their commitment to improving the health and well-being of the citizens. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says President Bola Tinubu is committed to accountability on tax bills and will always act in the interest of Nigerians. The minister, in a statement issued in Abuja, welcomed the new tax reform bill, saying it was commendable. Idris added it was very inspiring to see Nigerians from all walks of life coming out to express their views and opinions on the new bill, which is a matter of critical national importance. The Senate has directed its Committee on Finance to halt further deliberations on the tax bills until the outcome of a high-level meeting with the Attorney General of the Federation, AGF. The announcement was made during plenary session by the Deputy Senate President, Senator Barrow Jibrin, who disclosed that a special committee has been formed to address the contentious provisions in the bills. The crucial meeting with the AGF is scheduled to take place today in order to resolve conflicting issues in the proposed tax bills. The Arawa Consultative Forum, ACF, has lifted the suspension of Maman Mike Usuma, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, as chairman of its National Executive Committee. The decision was communicated by the Secretary General of the Forum, Murtala Aliyu. In a press release he personally signed. Osuma was suspended over statements he allegedly made that were criticized by some of the Board of Trustees and National Executive Committee members as deviating from the organization's non-partisanship. In a statement jointly signed by the Arawa Consultative Forum Secretary General, Malam Murtala Aliyu, the Board of Trustees Chairman, Bashir Dalhatu, Osman was accused of making unauthorized remarks suggesting that the North would back a northern presidential candidate in the 2027 election. The Nigerian Railway Corporation, NRC, is to run an end-of-the-year special train service on all its routes across the country. The train service is in compliance with the federal government's directive through the Federal Ministry of Transportation. The corporation, in a statement by its Deputy Director, Public Relations, Yakub Mahmood, says the modality for the special service will be released soon. Recall that the federal government had last year declared free train services for Christmas and New Year. Human rights lawyer and social critic Dele Farotimi has been arraigned before a chief magistrate court in Ado-Ekiti over alleged defamation and subsequently remanded in prison. Farotimi was accused of defaming Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Afe Babalola. Reports say Farotimi's arrest has been largely condemned on the social media after he was picked up in Lagos by the police and moved to Ekiti State, where he was detained ahead of his arraignment. Meanwhile, a former Vice President of Nigeria and 2023 presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has strongly condemned the arrest and detention of lawyer and human rights advocate Dele Farotimi. In a statement, Atiku described the incident as a disturbing reminder of Nigeria's oppressive military dictatorship era, criticizing the use of state forces to suppress dissent and limit free expression. The Nigeria Army has organized a workshop aimed at enhancing cooperation between the military, media and other security agencies to address the growing challenges posed by the digital media landscape. The event, held at the Nigeria Army School of Public Relations and Information in Giri, Abuja, brought together security and paramilitary representatives, media professionals and online publishers. Defense correspondent Kiki Alomokere reports.
The workshop themed Leveraging Digital Social Media Influence for Effective Military Operation Within a Joint Environment was designed to explore how media can serve as a force multiplier in supporting military operations. The acting Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, who was represented by the Chief of Civil Military Affairs, Major General Nosakari Ubu, emphasized the media's pivotal role in supporting the Army's constitutional duties in promoting the national security. He commended the media for their roles in reporting the Army's achievements and reinforcing the need to combat fake news to foster public confidence in the military.
The media shapes not only the public perception, opinion, and narratives, but also influences and galvanizes public support, which is a vital variable for operational successes. To this end, the continuous and seamless collaboration between the Nigerian Army and the media must be maintained at all times.
The Director of Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Nwanchukwu, highlighted the crucial roles of the media in shaping public perception, particularly in the era where digital platforms often fueled misinformation and disinformation. He noted that while social media presents opportunities for the military to communicate its successes, it also poses risk by spreading false information that can undermine public trust and national security.
Ladies and gentlemen, is also organized as part of efforts by the Nigerian Army to further enhance the existing relationship amongst stakeholders in information management, the Nigerian Army and the public in the interest of national security and nation building.
The Commandant, Nigerian Army of Public Relations and Information, Lieutenant General Adamu Ngude, announces plans to modernize NASPRI, transforming it into a world-class institution aimed at equipping Army personnel with advanced skills to navigate modern media challenges. He says the workshop is aimed to strengthen the partnership between the military and the media to foster understanding, improve information management, and craft positive narrative to back national security efforts.
It is high time we realize that in modern warfare, the media plays a pivotal role for any successful military operations. This is because the media space has become the ultimate decider of who wins or loses the war. Therefore, the need to always collaborate with media for successful military operations becomes paramount for promoting the right narrative and messaging.
The workshop elaborates the importance of seamless collaboration between the Nigerian Army and the media in achieving national security goals. Kikelomo Okeri, Global Television News.
The Joint Security Task Force in Imo State, also known as Operation Udoka, has said it has discovered some shallow graves in Aku community, Okigwe local government area of the state, where members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra IPOB and its armed affiliate, the Eastern Security Network ESN, allegedly buried their victims. The shallow graves were discovered during a clearance operation at Aku community, which has been under siege by suspected IPOB leader Ifeanyi Okorienta. Also, the Joint Security Task Force during the raid said they recovered several stolen vehicles, arms, ammunition, and explosive devices. An unconfirmed number of travelers are feared dead after a vehicle conveying them ran on explosives planted along the Dansadao-Gusau Road in the Maru local government area of Zamfara State. Reports say the explosives were planted by some bandits after the completion of community work on the road. A community walk is said to have recently been conducted on the road, and the bandits used that opportunity to plant the device at one of the spots. Confirming the incident in a statement made available to newsmen, the coordinator, Joint Media Coordination Center, Joint Task Force Northwest Operation Fasanyama, Lieutenant Colonel Abubakar Abdullahi, acknowledged the report regarding the suspected bandits planting explosives along the Dansadao-Gusau Road, which unfortunately led to some destruction. Consultations on the federal government's National Digital Economy and e-government bill have continued nationwide, with latest in Imo State. The bill aims to establish a legal framework for digital governance while driving economic growth, transparency and innovation. Here is our correspondent Amarachi Ibe's report.
In Owerri, Imo State capital, in a roundtable discussion, stakeholders from various sectors convened to deliberate on the bill. Presenting an overview of the bill, digital economy legal consultant Chukwudi Chimezie emphasized that the bill aims to ensure economic transformation and digital access for all, with potential to increase access to government services as well as protect privacy and security.
And the National Assembly, in their wisdom, they said this bill has to go round Nigeria and the FCT to ensure that everybody's input is taken, everybody's consideration is taken. We've been touring around Nigeria talking about this bill and what it promised, and we've also been getting feedbacks. This is why we've come to Owerri today, to have this stakeholders engagement, to deliberate on this bill together and ensure that this bill actually caters for us.
Imo State Commissioner for Digital Economy and E-Government, Chimezie Amadi, says the state's vision aligns with the objectives of the bill, noting that it is essential that the needs and priorities of the states are incorporated to ensure no community is left behind in digital evolution.
In Imo, we want to remain digitally ahead. Just like our governor is already driving digital transformation and digital diffusion across all the sectors in Imo State. This bill will support the efforts of the governor, because the federal government will now see the reasons to support what His Excellency is doing by investing more in trying to close the infrastructural gap, in trying to protect the cyberspace, so that people will have more confidence to embrace digital technology across all the sectors of the economy.
Stakeholders at the event who deliberated on the bill made suggestions and recommendations on enhancing the bill.
Gathering to consider the National Digital Economy and E-Governance Bill, then to go through it and also make contributions. First, a lot of things will be made easy to access, documents will easily be transferred, land matters will be easily traced, checkmate a lot of things, and also bring development, make governance easier, and make traceability of information a lot easier too.
Because of the involvement of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which Imo State have keyed in through our amiable governor, distinguished Senator Opuzodinma, we are 100% in support of this bill that have been introduced to us today. We will give every legislative support to make sure that this bill passes in Imo State.
Stakeholders in Imo State remain optimistic that their contributions will shape a comprehensive and impactful policy. From Owerri, Amarachi Ibe, reporting for Global TV News.
Of quality infrastructure across Imo State, Governor Hope Uzodinma has been touring various ongoing projects aimed at addressing the state's infrastructure gaps and improving the quality of life for its residents. Amarachi Ibe was on the governor's entourage, and now
the governor began his tour at the Emmanuel Iwuanyanwu Convention Center in Owerri, a flagship project designed to transform the state into a hub for national and international events. The convention center, once completed, is expected to boost tourism, create job opportunities, and elevate Imo State's profile on the global stage. The governor moved to the Control Maria Assumpta Cathedral flyover, a critical infrastructure project aimed at easing traffic congestion in the state capital. The flyover is expected to significantly improve the flow of movements within Owerri.
So all we have seen is all the facility and international conference center. 80% complete. You saw the flyover at Assumpta Cathedral roundabout, almost 70% complete. You've come to Olu, you've seen the road, the Banana Junction to Eziashi, and the government house are next. In our quest to decentralize government, we have taken it upon us to build a government house annex in Olu and another one in Okibu.
Next on the list was the ongoing rehabilitation of Eziachi-Olu Road, a key link road connecting several communities. This road, which has long been in a state of disrepair, is being revitalized to enhance access and improve transportation for residents. Governor Hope Uzodimma also visited the new government house annex. He commended the contractors for staying on the track with the project timeline and emphasized the importance of such projects in boosting governance efficiency.
It's not only a federal road, it's also connecting some other states. From here you can get to Anambra State. From here you can get to Akwa Ibom State and Abia State. And the level of devastation is so alarming that ordinarily one will assume that it's above the strength of a state government. But we have borrowed courage somehow to see how we can rescue our people from this malady.
Some residents of Eziachi expressed gratitude to the governor for reconstructing the road.
Before now it has been flooded, and in fact I don't even follow this road going back home from because of the flood. Sometimes there are cases of where children are being drawn along the line. So it's a very serious problem.
The governor also visited the Imo State Teaching Hospital, Olu, where a 200-bed medical facility is being constructed, which is expected to significantly improve the healthcare service for the people of Imo State. Governor Hope Uzodimma shifted his focus to the Umuchima erosion site, a long-standing ecological challenge threatening the livelihood and safety of residents in the south and north of the state, assuring the communities that his administration is fully committed to controlling the erosion and preventing further damage to the area. He expressed confidence that the project will be completed in record time with significant improvement to both the environment and the safety of residents. With the governor's assurance and ongoing efforts to address key infrastructure needs, residents remain hopeful that these projects will bring long-lasting improvement to the state, enhancing the well-being and quality of life for all. From Owerri, Amarachi Ibe, reporting for Global TV News.
Located in the resolution followed the adoption of a motion on the need to investigate the Abuja Rehabilitation Center and the social protection programs of the FCT, sponsored by the member representing Oshodi Solo, 1 Federal Constituency, Lagos State, Bashiru Dawodu. Speaking about the motion, the Lagos lawmaker noted that on October 22, 2024, the Federal Capital Territory Administration declared war on the street begging to restore Abuja's image and enhance security, adding the majority of beggars are individuals with disabilities, which other contributing factors including almajiri, internally displaced persons, poverty, unemployment, and cultural factors. You're watching the AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. When the AM News returns, South Korean president faces impeachment. Calls following his declaration of marital law. Details of this, as well as business and sports stories, coming right after the break. Please stay with us. For staying with us. In business, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has disclosed that South Africa will keenly support the bid of Nigeria to become a member of the G20 club of the world's major economies. Ramaphosa gave the promise at the official launch of South Africa's presidency of the G20 in Cape Town. Special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayon Onuga, revealed this in a statement titled South Africa eyes Nigeria's lithium for electric vehicle revolution, backs Nigeria's bid to join G20. The South African leader reiterated the stance during his tete-a-tete with President Bola Tinubu and the expanded meeting with officials of both countries at the Binational Commission. The Nigeria Customs Service says it has initiated a collaboration with the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria to tackle petrol smuggling out of the country. Comptroller General of Customs Adewale Adeniyi, represented by the Assistant Comptroller General of Customs in charge of enforcement, inspection and investigation Timi Bomodu, met representatives of the groups in Abuja to strategize on modalities to stop illegal petrol exports. A statement from the service says the collaboration involves the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority and Dangote Refinery. On the foreign scene, Namibia's ruling Southwest Africa People's Organization Party has been declared winner of last week's disputed elections, ushering in the Southern African country's first woman president after a disputed vote that the main opposition has already said it does not recognize. The election authority announced that Vice President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah took just over 57% of ballots, followed by the candidate of the main opposition Independent Patriots for Change with 25.5%. The election authority announced 72-year-old Nandi Ndaitwah becomes the first woman to rule the mineral-rich South African country that has been governed by the Southwest Africa's People's Organization since independence from apartheid South Africa in 1990. South Korean lawmakers have called on President Yoon Suk Yeol to resign or face impeachment after he declared martial law only to reverse the move hours later, triggering a political crisis in Asia's fourth largest economy. The surprise declaration ignited a standoff with Parliament, which rejected his attempt to ban political activity and censor the media as armed troops forced their way into the National Assembly building in Seoul. The main opposition Democratic Party called for Yoon, who has been in office since 2022, to resign or face impeachment. In sports, the draw for the expanded FIFA Club World Cup takes place in Miami, offering a first glimpse into the fine detail of a tournament that has been viewed with difference or even outright hostility across parts of the football world. 32 star-studded club teams will battle it out in gleaming state-of-the-art arenas in what is effectively a curtain raiser for the 2026 World Cup, taking place a year later in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. In theory, the new look competition ought to be enticing prospects that sells itself. A month-long football festival, the first large-scale club tournament to feature teams from all corners of the globe. Crystal Palace captain Mark Guehi will reportedly face no formal action from the Football Association despite adding a Christian message to his rainbow armband in defiance of a warning over the display of religious messages. The player and the club had been reminded of FA kit regulations after he wore an armband with the handwritten message, "I love Jesus," in Saturday's 1-1 draw in Newcastle. Palace manager Oliver Glasner appealed for calm over the issue after his side's win at Portman Road. Even though Guehi has not been punished, his father, John, a church minister, criticized the Football Association for issuing a reminder. And that's it on the AM News on Global Television, and it came to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, on StarTimes channel 276, and free to air on Nightcomsat. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching, and see you again.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Good to have you right there. Still Global Morning on Global Television. Welcome back from the AM News. Like we got started, we told you we'd bring you to speed with every details of details of the happenings from around Nigeria and outside the country. Now it's time for our first discussion. Today we want to look at national security and the concern, the call, all right, for the punishment of sponsors, which is very notable people in the country. And of course, the Christian Association of Nigeria and the Sultan have made a call that the sponsor of terror should be punished by the federal government. And I have a security expert joining us on the conversation today, and Queen and I will be speaking with him. We'll be asking him questions. Salihu Dantata Mahmood, he's the director of Security Salutes Nigeria Initiative, and he is joining us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Mahmood.
Good morning, Anchorman Ramsey.
Thank you very much. It's good to have you on the program today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure joining you today on Global TV to analyze issues that affect Nigeria as a whole.
Okay, let's begin with the security situation of the country. What do you think about the security situation of the country before we look into the call coming from very important Nigerians?
Honestly, for people who know Nigeria very well, Nigeria that once stabilized Liberia, stabilized Sierra Leone, contributed to crisis in Congo and other parts of the world, including Yugoslavia, Bosnia, and also other countries under United Nations and ECOMOG, is today engulfed in insurgency in northeastern part of the country, in armed banditry in northwestern part of the country. The activities of IPOB and unknown gunmen in southeastern part of the country is rather unfortunate because our security is being threatened. Itato will move freely at any time. But today, the fear of bandits in states like Zamfara, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, and Katsina is another wisdom. So also the fear of Boko Haram insurgents in Borno and Yobe State is also beginning of wisdom. That is how far it has gone. It is rather unfortunate, even though the combined forces of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, DSS, and other services like Armed Squad of Nigeria Security and Civil Defense, Immigration, others are doing and carrying out onslaught. But even at that, it is rather unfortunate that Nigeria, that is a giant of Africa, that is the superpower of Africa, is going through these difficulties.
All right. We want to look at the statement that was being made by some very important, I call them very important personalities in the society, you know, the place of the Sultan. Then the Christian Association of Nigeria. These are serious religious representatives. And of course, this is to tell you that this insecurity, okay, is something that it is not of a religious thing, because you see the Sultan from the Muslim and you see Christian Association of Nigeria joining their voices together to say the sponsors of terror in Nigeria should be punished. Remember, this is not the first time we're hearing about sponsors of terrorism in this country, but up till now, nothing significantly has been done that we know as Nigerians. What's your thought concerning this call?
Well, the call by the royal and religious bodies is very good, because Nigeria Interreligious Council is made up of both Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs as well as Christian Association of Nigeria. That is to tell you, the two secular, you know, we are a secular state. So the two leading religions in Nigeria, that is Christianity and Islam, they have a body called NIREC, Nigeria Interreligious Council. It is under the auspices of NIREC that the Sultan, who is the chairman, and the Khan president, who is Daniel Oko, made this appeal that the terrorism as lingers on. A lot of children have become orphans. We have produced widowers, which ought not to be. If the system is to be good, the perpetrators of these acts, like bandits and insurgents, ought not to be left to stay long in prison. The law should have taken its course by prosecuting them accordingly. World over, you don't take terrorism lightly. The highest sentence goes for terrorism suspects and culprits. In Nigeria, unfortunately, the criminal justice administration is faulty. Corruption is also there in the judiciary. Therefore, you take them, you hear adjournment, they get the best crop of senior advocates of Nigeria to represent them. At the end of the day, you see a kidnapper being released, you see an insurgent being released. The most ironic thing was recently in Borno State, where some of the repentant Boko Haram insurgents were granted amnesty and pardon. And at the end of the day, they came to spy and went to strike, which resumed hostilities in some parts of Borno State. It was rather unfortunate. And of recent too, in Kaduna State, under Senator Ubame, the executive governor, he signed a MOU with bandits and Bindingwari in order to allow the villagers have access to fire, which ought not to be. These are people who killed others. So where the criminal justice system to be effective, the justice system will have, taken its course by sentencing them to life imprisonment or by hanging or what have you, because these are bandits, non-state actors, these are insurgents that have killed and have overcome the innocent communities. So what the Sultan of Sokoto, His Eminence Muhammad Shah Abubakar III is saying, as well as Khan representative in Narek Daniel Oko, is very, very right. And at this time, eminent personalities like that, their words should not be taken lightly or not be treated with levity. I think the authorities must take from what they said by henceforth prosecuting them accordingly. The laws attached to that when you perpetrate insurgency and banditry, kidnap related cases, You know, what does the law say? Let the law take its course. Then if the judiciary is saying they cannot go into abuse and what have you, let the special prosecution court be set up for, what do you call it, for kidnap-related cases and banditry as well as insurgency. After all, common tax laws are set up, mobile calls are set up for traffic. So if that is set up, things that affect life, special courts for terrorism-related cases, for armed banditry as well as kidnap-related, it should be set up. That is what NAREC is saying, and the Sultan of Sokoto is the chairman, while Daniel Oko is the co-chairman. So I think they spoke in the right direction. It is high time we know what is right, when and how. We shouldn't be beaten about the bush. The moment we arrest these people, let the law take its course. I know sometimes they say if the security agents kill them, where they get them is extrajudicial killing. You see international human rights organizations coming. In their own country, even in America, in most of the European Union countries, you see that they don't take terrorism lightly. Sometimes on the spot they kill. So what is extrajudicial killing about that? So I think even beyond the judiciary, even though we have bilateral treaties with international bodies, we are members of United Nations Human Rights Charter and also other things, but the issues are sometimes when these army officers get them, shoot them at sight. I'm not promoting extrajudicial killing, but these are people that have killed other people's parents, other people's husbands, wives, and also today displace a lot of people. Today in Zamfara, people are not living freely. In Kebbi, people are not living freely. In Sokoto, people are not living freely. In Katsina as well. It's also extended to Niger and Kwara, northern areas of Kayama, Okuta, Yashikira, under Barutel and Kayama local government area. Then some abandoned wildlife forests of Kanji in Niger State, Wawa, Agwara in Agwara local government, as well as other bushes. So it is rather unfortunate. So they spoke from a informed background, and I think the government of Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu should take cognizance of their submissions.
All right. Thank you very much, Salihu. While you were speaking, you made a very vital point while you were talking about granting amnesty to repentant terrorists, as the case may be, or maybe Boko Haram or whatever they are called, bandits. So many names that they have these days. Then you talked about that of Kaduna State, where a memorandum of understanding was actually being signed between people who are bandits or maybe terrorists with the people of the village, so they could go to farm. Now, this is where the question is coming from. There is this belief that these persons who are unleashing this mayhem are not known. We heard where a very renowned person in this country at a time said there is a need for negotiation, and people were saying, oh, come on, do we really know who these terrorists are? Now, if we don't know who they are, how comes there is a signing of a memorandum of understanding, and that which went down as far as granting amnesty, which you said they later regroup, supervise, monitor the place, spy, and went and regroup, and of course came up very difficult again. Do we really know who these people are and who knows them? Because if you said sponsors and terrorists, then it means they are known. So do Nigerians, the federal government, really know who these terrorists are?
Well, from certain indications, some of these bandits as well as terrorists are known. I can vividly tell you that in Zamfara State, for instance, Bello Turji is well known to the intelligence circle of the security agencies, Dogo Gide as well. Then for amnesty to have been granted to certain insurgents in Borno that later went back to their former job, it means certain people in government knows them. And this brings me to what President Goodluck Jonathan Ebele said while he was in power, that there are certain members of these insurgent groups in his government. You can vividly recall, right? So for the governor of Kaduna State to have signed this MOU, it means they are known. Don't forget there is a full-fledged home security Home Affairs and Security Office in Kaduna State and in some states as well. So we cannot completely say that security agencies or the government does not know them, because if you don't know them, how come you are, is it true, is it their ghost you are signing the MOU with? But the issue is, when you talk about insurgency and banditry, no country has been able to eliminate it at once for certain reasons. They live among the people. And you know, in most of these communities as the receiving end, there's what you call OI insecurity, ownership involvement, where the people that these people are tormenting play roles by also giving privileged intelligence information to the agencies and what have you. Because sometimes when the security agencies also carry out mass onslaught, as an Air Force raid, ground onslaught, sometimes you record civilian casualties. It has happened in Borno before, where the Nigerian Air Force air component, through the air, what have you, fighter jets, went to, what have you, bombarded villages. There were innocent civilians that died. It raised issues globally. So I think the combined forces of the security are also avoiding this, and that is why the OI is very important, the ownership involvement, where the inhabitants day to day avail the security agencies of information at the time they come for the food, the bandits or insurgents, because they also take fuel, there are people that supplies them money and other things. So that is why the OI is also important, where the ownership involvement is important, where the inhabitants of these areas will maybe move to police outposts or the military field base there and say, come, these people so place this time around, they are doing this and that. So already they know where they are, automatically the security agent can strike. But that OI is lacking among the inhabitants. Be it as it may, were there to be effective intelligence gathering, there wouldn't have been this. Intelligence is gathered sometimes but not shared, and it lies on the security agencies, whether it is the military intelligence that agents that gathered, you share with the police. If it is the police, you share with immigration. If it is immigration, you share with customs. If it is customs, you share with DSS. If it is the DSS, you share with Air Force. That is how it works world over. Like in America, for instance, FBI, CIA, and other, they share intelligence sometimes. So I think the synergy is important, even though they be having joint task force, but it's not gathering momentum. Look at, for example, in Kaduna, that Binungwari area is a very important federal road. People traveling from Jigawa, Borno, Kano to Lagos and whatever, when they get to Kaduna, they pass through Mando, Binungwari, before they come and connect Tegina, Kagara up to Mokwa and go through Jeba and what have you. But today, unfortunately, because of insecurity in Binungwari and Tegina area, they now pass through Kogi State, Lokoja, Kabam, which ought not to be. That itself is reducing revenue, productivity, and also other things. So the intelligence circles sometimes knows where they are, but they are sometimes reluctant in order not to record casualties, like I earlier emphasized to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Saliu. But I want to take us back to what you said about capital punishment being given to these terrorists and their sponsors as well. And you made mention of these people, when capital punishment is given to them, some human rights begin to, spring up, talk about human rights. But how do we strike a balance between punishing terrorists, their sponsors, and also putting in consideration human rights? Where do we go from it? How do we strike a balance? And how can we also, how can the international bodies be a part of these fight against terrorism and terror sponsors?
Yes, thank you very much for this good question. We are borrowing democracy from America. Don't forget Operation Desert Storm. America felt Iraq was building atomic bomb and a nuclear weapon, right?
Yeah.
The Marines invaded Iraq. America as civilized and as first world country they never considered any human rights. So in protecting your territorial integrity, your sovereignty, you don't allow certain international human rights bodies to come and dictate to you. If they would do that, let them go back to drawing board. When America went to another country, there are many countries. Okay, for example, Russia is fighting Ukraine today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even with the lamentations of human rights organizations, Russia did not cease fire. So we are fighting to protect our country. We don't even need any international human rights organization to tell us. There was a time in Borno State where there is an NGO that was suspected by the military intelligence to even be supplying arms to the Boko Haram insurgents. They had to evict them from the country. So some of these human rights organizations are also agents of deceit. Are you getting my point? So I think first of all is for us to know that we are a sovereign nation, we are an independent nation, and we must protect our territorial integrity. Once onslaught is being carried, let that capital punishment stay, no matter who is crying. Because let us go back to Abacha's time. For 5.5 years of late General Sani Abacha administration in Nigeria, from November 1993 to 1998 when he died in office, there was security, because he said if insecurity exceeds 48 hours, it means government of the day has hand in it. So let's go back to drawing board, borrow from the Abacha security plan, where we will prioritize our internet security, security of our people, so that there can be capital punishment, and to ensure that it lies on the judiciary. We have 3 arms, which you know: executive, legislature, and judiciary. It is the judiciary that interprets the law. It is the judiciary that convicts, that gives verdict. The police and the other agencies arrests. The police arraign them before competent courts of law. So it now lies on the courts to give verdicts. And what is the sentence as enshrined in Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria for armed banditry, for insurgency and kidnap related cases? Then the judge goes from there. So I think no matter outcry by any international human rights organization, we must take into cognizance our existence as a people, our sovereignty, the protection of our territorial integrity, and the judiciary must act without fear or favor, whether they will call it extrajudicial killing or what have you. Let it be, because these people are killers, they are demons, they are terrorists, and globally, countries that signed the Charter Against Terrorism execute terrorists even.
Okay, thank you,
So
Mr.
I think that capital punishment must be sustained.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Saliu. Well, you will agree with me that there's a need for us to stop the spread of some of these extreme ideologies and theories that is being spread. What is the most effective way you think that we can stop the spread of these ideologies of terrorism, killing, and how we can even protect vulnerable communities in Nigeria?
Well, when you look at the Boko Haram insurgency in Borno and Yobe states, the ideology differs from the armed banditry in Zamfara, Kaduna, Sokoto, and Kebbi. It was their Boko Haram belief where they said education is a sin. And in 2009, during late Umaru Yar'Adua administration, they alleged that they killed their leader, Mohammed Yusuf. And that was what ignited it before you saw the likes of Shekau, Imagine, and also other things. So I think if at state levels, the governors also proscribe certain sects that are seen to be detrimental to the society, it will stop this kind of terrorist-related activities. Because Niger State Governor then, His Excellency Muazu Babangida Aliyu did it during his tenure, when he got intelligence report that Dar es Salaam set at camp in Mokwa, and over time he ordered the police to carry out intel. After the intelligence report they gave him that they have terrorist ideologies, they went overnight, demolished the place. Other governors can do same, but that of Zamfara, Katsina has communal and gold-related ideology. That of Zamfara is purely politics and for gold. Itato, some of the inhabitants of these communities that indulge in illegal gold mining hired the likes of late Sububu that was killed by military authorities, Bello Turji and others, to come and be guarding the places, armed them. When the bandits realized what they were making, they now turned against the inhabitants that were involved in illegal gold mines. Then some of the top echelons, both retired generals, AIGs, even some of the top politicians, senators, were also involved in the illegal gold mining. So that is for Zamfara. Then that of Kebbi, it is the onslaught against them in Zamfara that moved them to some part of Kebbi, Niger, and also other things. That of Katsina is purely communal, where between the Hausa living communities and that of the Fulani, they have that issues. Then that of the one that happened around Sabon Bini, Goronyo, and other Gatawa areas, is communal, because you have the Gogobiras who are the pure houses and some of the armed bandits who are Fulanis. So they have this kind of hatred for each other. So you can see the differences. So if the governors, even though we know security lies in the hands of the federal government, but the governors can complement, sorry, forgive me, the efforts of the federal government by engaging in civic enlightenment, reorientation, and educative programs. Then the rates at which people are allowed to suffer in poverty and illiteracy should also be reduced, because we are there to be formally educated. These ideologies wouldn't sell. So the issues are illiteracy, poverty, and lack of enough enlightenment are also responsible in some of it. I've told you that of Borno as well as that of Zamfara, which differs from what escalated to Kebbi, Sokoto, Niger, as well as Katsina State.
All right, Mr. Saliu, is good. Our time is running out, but then before we let you go, you've talked about the fact that the protection of lives and property of every nation lies on the shoulder of the federal government, which we cannot take out completely that they are not trying or doing their best, as the case may be. And a huge amount of money is being voted as a security vote year in, year out. Now, what's your general assessment of the federal government in an attempt to curb this insecurity in the country?
Right now, in southeastern parts, especially Imo, where you are, Anambra, where you are for non-government, security forces are there and they are doing their best. Sometimes they even kill them. Then when you go, Riot Act was read recently to Minister of State for Defense as well as Chief of Defense that they relocated to Zamfara, Katsina, and Sokoto State after the killing of one top emir there, and they recorded success by killing one of the dreaded bandit, Sabubu. You know that. Until now, they are in the bushes combing and still carrying out onslaught and recording successes and also for others. So I think the federal government has expanded a lot of money into, especially for the Army, Navy, Air Force, but where there is a misplaced priority sometimes is police are the ones that are custodian of internal security. With all the funds, logistics that are given to Army, Air Force, they are not giving it to police that are supposed to take charge of internal security. And moreover, police are in charge of internal security. They have the largest specialized squads. They have a police mobile force, special tactical squad, intelligence response team, special forces of the police, border police, and also for others, but they are underfunded. And for them to live up to this, because all these services you see Army, Air Force are doing is just complementary role. Theirs is external against external aggression. But since it has escalated, they just had to come and help by forming joint task force. So therefore, I think they should better equip the police. Look at even common pension matter of the police that they needed to single out their pension issue, like the military pension they are effectively paid. Today they are being paid small amount, and now they are trying to exempt. To how public hearing was held, you can even see their action, the IG is saying if the police is exempted from the pension administration, it will spell to how? When somebody is retiring, is not getting anything, how will he get the motivation in service? So they should structure the Nigerian police to live up to expectation and to be efficient so that they can take over internal security from these forces that are now complementing their efforts.
All right. Thank you very much, the director. Well, that has been the voice of Saliu Mahmood, and of course, he has done justice to the questions that we have as it has to do with national security. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you very much, Ramsey, and you are a fellow anchor person. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, that's going to be the size of the first discussion. But as a matter of fact, the issue of security is not something that you can finish talking about in just one day. This is something that has eaten deeply into the fabric of the society. Like he was mentioning, most of the states Okay, the northern states, the northeast, and somewhere in the south, even south too, and then you get to the eastern part of Nigeria, southeast, a whole lot happening. But then, no amount of money or effort will be too much as it has to do with curbing insecurity in the country, because lives and property, we keep losing lives and properties on a daily basis, which is not the best. Like we're talking about Benue State short before Mahmoud came up. Not just that, Queen, as it is right now, what do you think the federal government needs to do additional? And what do you think about the security situation in the country? Have we recorded more positive actions? And of course, like he said, one of their big officers was brought down recently. We keep having different chiefs, and the efforts, some person said is massive, some person said more needs to be done. What's your school of thought?
Yes, the fact that we have different security chiefs, particularly with the recent unfortunate incident of the late Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tari Lakbaja, and now we have a new Chief of Army Staff, and then, the maybe reorientation and then taking over from where the former Chief of Army Staff stopped. It could be disturbing and distorting at some point, because we have, and the changing of service chiefs as well. I feel like until, maybe whatever it is that it's capital, before we begin to talk about changing of, for example, death, which is inevitable, or some sort that is unfortunate that has just happened to the late of. Except for that, I don't think that we need to, or maybe some capital, reasons. We don't need to start changing service chiefs or changing security personnel just like that, because we're talking about lives and properties, security of lives and properties. And so we need to be, careful. We need to be careful and intentional about the people who occupy certain positions. And communities as well, we need to give prior attention to communities, just like Mr. Saliu mentioned. These communities that have had issues, recurring issues, of insurgencies, insecurity, threats to lives and properties, prior attention needs to be put in such, and then we also need to engage chiefs, traditional rulers, traditional chiefs, people, enlightenment, security teams. So much needs to be done and put forward in those communities as well. And people need to be on their toe. We need to intensify. Quite frankly, we've been doing a whole lot in terms of security, but we need to intensify because these people are not resting.
They are not resting.
They're not laid back at all.
It's unfortunate that they keep regrouping, they keep reinforcing, and
coming up with different tactics.
And you said something very vital. The community, you don't need to take that away, because these people are amongst us. They are in the communities, and they need to at least be watched, be monitors. The vigilantes should also be empowered and encouraged to. When I talk about empowerment, you know what I'm talking about. Like Sally was talking about the fact that some of the security agencies are underfunded. These are the major things we need to take into consideration, of course. Well, time will not allow us to continue with this discussion. We are coming up next with the second discussion, which has to do with the tax reform. What are you thinking? There are so many pressure, political pressure, pressure from different angles concerning the tax reform. We'll come up again, and that's going to be after this break, when our guest will be joining us for the second discussion, when we look at the tax reform and some other matters arising. Do stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
Global Morning aims to deliver newspaper review, latest news with experts on key global issues.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Mondays to Sundays to a wide range of the latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
The president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Welcome back. It is still Global Morning live on your television from Global Television, of course, and we are going into the second discussion straight away. I have my guest in the studio, but then what are we talking about today? The tax reform. Well, a lot of reactions coming from the tax reform. Pressure is mounting, and as at yesterday, there was a move by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for a review because of what is coming up, and a lot of people are reacting. But then we're looking at the matters arising from the tax reform today, and our topic is tax reforms bill. Pressure mounts as the Senate debate. Well, there've been an uproar, agreements, disagreements at the Senate because of the tax reform bill, and so many things, reactions coming from Nigerians too. And joining me on the conversation today is a public affairs commentator, and as a matter of fact, Gerard Kachi is joining me here today. It's good to have you in the studio. Good morning, Mr. Gerard.
Thank you for having me. A very good morning to our viewers.
Yes, the tax reform is not new to a lot of Nigerians. You know, a committee was actually set up, and they came up with this issue of tax reform. Some persons are of different opinions concerning this tax reform, and of course, a lot of pressure. It's coming up, and the debate, a lot of calls, and so many things. What do you think about this tax reform in the first place before we even get into the real thing?
Well, you will agree with me that generally the essence of tax reform is to just improve or raise the revenue and then simplify the tax regime, you know, as against the structure we have today. But then for me, as activist and somebody on the street that have seen the plight of Nigerians with regards to some of the economic reform that this present administration has embarked upon, I think there should be wider consultation, just like agitated by the governors or senators from the northern extraction of the country. There should be the rush in these tax reforms, you know, generate more dust, suspense. Of course, if you read that tax reform bill, you know, you will agree with me that it's a wonderful piece of work by the committee. And as wonderful as it is, same way we are giving a lot of green lights, good reports about if we remove a fuel subsidy. Same way we are giving, you know, good information about floating of naira. At the end of the day, we all are suffering it. 18 months down the line, we have not really even started seeing lights at the end of the tunnel. In fact, when we started the reforms under this administration, we are told that less than 3 months or 6 months, our refineries will start working. But it took a long time. Even when the refineries commenced work, including in Dangote, many of us were believing and encouraging that once they start work, the importation of fuel and other needs, energy needs, will reduce, meaning that there will be reduction in prices. When we start refining, it appears like we are even buying more than when we are importing. So, as sound as the reform bills are, I have my reservation because you look at antecedents where we are coming from and where we are going. One of the major challenges that causes a lot of debate with regards to that reform is derivation, timing, implementation, and sharing formula. These are some of the things that most of citizens have, you know, debated. But for me, if the reforms will manifest a reduction of tax payments by the Nigerian masses, especially the poor, just as they have suggested, I'll give you thumbs up. But then it appears like giving with one hand and the other hand you are taking it. How do I mean? A situation where the committee will be telling us that people earning less than 1 million naira will not be captured in the tax. But whereas you have a VAT that you intend to increase to double digit, meaning that even if they are not captured in the individual tax returns or income-based tax returns or whatever you call it, they will one way or the other be paying through the VAT, because they virtually over 90% of what they require for survival, either use or what have you, they will make use of VAT, whether it's clothing, healthcare, whatever services you can give to them will reflect in the VAT.
But as it is right now, a lot of people are saying, well, this VAT has come to address certain things especially the multiplicity of tax payments, because sometimes you hear that, okay, this person is coming to collect tax, this other person is coming to collect, and you have a lot of people coming to collect tax at the same time, irrespective of the kind of business you're doing. Don't you think this is one aspect that a lot of people should look at? Like you were talking about the fact that it also address the situation whereby if you're earning below $1 million naira, you wouldn't be paying the tax. Don't you think that is a thumbs up?
It's a thumbs up on paper, but when the implementation commences, you will discover that that's not what it is. Because if these government's economic policies that we are seeing today have not reflected from where they are coming from, some of the positions they hold well in the past, and we find them doing it with a lot of promises, and the promises we are not seeing it. You ask yourself, I have said it, the reform base, the tax reform base, if you read it, you will give thumbs up, you will embrace the committee, you won't even give them an award. But reality shows that implementations, at the end of the day, differs from what in Nigeria today we have a lot of wonderful laws and bills that we are not really implementing or following. So these are my fears. That's my personal fears. Apart from neither the northern senators or the governors expressing, the essence of this tax reform is just like the way the previous government did this single treasury account, to see how they will simplify, modernize taxation. Put an end to multiplicity of taxes. You understand? Yes, it's a thumbs up. But then, where we are coming from, how far have we gone with a lot of promises made? What are the impacts we have? Just a few days ago, we saw the same Senate, raising issues of proving of 8.4 trillion naira of subsidy service. And the essence of removing subsidy is to end borrowing, to have more fund to fund our budget, to do a lot of projects.
But do you think just the subsidy will be able to fund the budget, just the subsidy, or I think we need a little clarification.
Oh yes, because let me come in that area. If you recall, we were told that we spent trillions of naira, if not almost 50% of our budget in subsidizing fuel, PMS1 commodity. And recently over the years, we have seen, for example, just making a classical case example. Over the years, we have seen in the education sector, ASU struggling with the Nigerian government with regards to some of the agreement they have signed more than 10 years ago, to see how they can make our education to be competitive to global standard. And what we are then needing, either 1.2 trillion to 1.4 trillion. And they're asking the government, don't just pay it at once. Do it in sequence, to see how we can rehabilitate our infrastructures in the school, improving getting technologies and other ways to improve education. If you are using trillions to subsidize one commodity and you remove it, what is stopping you from ending that particular issue? Do you understand what I say? This is one out of many things. This is just one out of numerous things. You look at the budget in the 2024 that will be ending in less than 3 weeks' time. What education gets, what health gets, put together is not up to what National Assembly gets. You understand? You ask yourself, where is it? If we are looking at ways to generate revenue to run government, there are a lot of things we can do without really taxing the people.
Okay, talking about taxation right now. There is this speculation. All right, some persons, because a lot of Nigerians are saying so many things, some Nigerians are saying well, some persons evade tax. They don't pay tax, and mostly is the big people in the society.
Oh, yes.
But there is no proof to that. I don't know.
There is. There is, Ramsey. If you observe or do a research with regards to just immediate past administration of President Muhammad Buhari, you will see some reports or some committees is set up to recover money for the government. For example, we have Obla. I can't get the full names, but you know the person I'm talking about. In one of his reports and interviews and podcasts, he mentioned that he discovered over 60 to 600 vehicles, Mercedes-Benz, somewhere in Abuja, Jebi. And they call custom. He said they did not collect custom duty. There's no way such a thing. In fact, how he entered the country, they don't know. He made mention that he could recover, I think, $65 billion. At the end of the day, the former Attorney General of the Federation was making mockery of it with regards to when he was laughing at the wife. So I thought your husband said he will help us to recover this and that. Was those vehicles confiscated or forfeited or taken to court? So there are, you talk about Abdulrashid Maina, who we know today that has been, I don't know whether to use the word incarcerated or put in detention or correctional facility for things that there is beyond human comprehension, that some people will reason and ask themselves questions. You accuse him of stealing 2.something billion and they recovered over 2.something trillion for the government with expectation that you give him 5% commission for those recoveries, which run into 100-something billion, and you're accusing him of stealing 2.something billion. You understand what I'm saying? There are a lot of things you ask yourself. Even the things he recovered, there are accusations from him that they have shared it. Just like recently we are clapping for EFCC with regards to the houses that the highest recovery they have made with regards to estate they recovered recently. Our fingers are crossed. Do not be surprised that in less than 2 years, if you go back to ask where are those things, the stories you hear will even beat your imaginations. So when you talk about tax reforms and maybe people evading tax, we need to start. Okay, we saw the energy crisis we are facing, and our government are doing their best, of course, but then proposing ways we can move away from PMS like CNG. But we have not seen them using CNG.
No, there are people in this country using CNG.
I mean the leaders, they should lead by example.
I think there might be some of them using CNG right now that we may not know. I know of, I think one of my guests that uses CNG.
Is it a government official?
It's not a government official.
That's what I'm saying. Right?
But we had bosses. I think recently.
If I have my way, I will use CNG. If I have my way.
Okay.
So that I will be a living proof. One of the promoters of it. But what I'm trying to say, if you advocate for something, you should lead by example. Let us, for example, say we are seeing our president, SSG, senators using CNG, making it clear that all the vehicles they are using are run by CNG. You know what that could do? Them only using it means that all their aides and most of their supporters will follow suit. You can't be telling us one thing and you are doing another thing. But this is where the trust deficit comes in.
Do you know it's possible for them to be using this CNG and it's not publicized? Because some persons will feel
I strongly doubt it.
That's their private life. Because I think a few days ago there were some CNG bosses.
Yes, that's for public.
For public.
Yes, for civil servants. I'm talking about the leadership of this country, the leaders.
It's possible they are using it.
It's not possible.
Do they need to announce it?
Yes, now, of course. Whatever they do, they announce it. Especially the one that will make people to give them kudos. For example, we saw as recent as few weeks ago, presidential initiative on that CNG, taking notable and influential Nigerians to raise support for it, to carry out awareness and sensitization in that regards. Was it not publicized? So if you can spend your money to get influencers, to get entertainers, to encourage the program you are rolling out, what stops you? Just open your door to assure us that look at my cylinder.
How many of government officials will have to do that?
We don't need all of them. we don't even need all of them. We just need a little %.
Sincerely speaking, there could be some of them using it.
I'm not rejecting it, but I want to see it.
It's possible.
They should call Global TV, call Ramsey, come and see. You know, come here, came here and say something that we are not using it. Just show Nigerians that look at my vehicles. Out of 6-7 vehicles, 5 is on CNG. The one I'm sitting in, go to work or go for functions, is run by CNG.
But you know, remember the president said something about the CNG. The essence of the CNG is because some Nigerians are complaining of the fact that there is hike in fuel price.
Oh yes, there is.
And there was an option. I think in the president's speech, he said, well, it's either you go for the fuel, which a pump price is 1,000 naira plus, or you go for CNG, which is 200 and something.
I think it's 200 and something now.
So what you do is you make use of this based on your capacity. That is in a bid to carry everyone along. Don't you think maybe some of the officials, even though they are campaigning that it is necessary for people to use CNG as against the fuel that people are complaining about, don't you think all this lies on the level of affordability?
Oh yes, it lies. You know, if you read the Animal Farm, and one of the major talking points there makes us understand that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others, and that shouldn't be the case. What's the essence of government to begin with? These are the fundamental questions. Is it to display affluence, to acquire things that ordinarily you cannot? The essence of leadership is to lead. Yes, you may have the capacity to even fly, to swim, or do whatever you want to do. But for the fact that you want to lead the people, it is expected that you lead from the front. It's not an issue of where your capacity with regards to energy sector or not. These are the reason why some of us continue to demand that you lead from the front. For example, don't encourage patronized homemade products, encourage our servicemen and what have you. And when you have issues that require you to leave from the front, you run outside the country. But if you have headache or mosquito bite, you run outside the country. Whereas these things can be treated here.
Well,
you have vacation to go, you go abroad, whereas we have a lot of wonderful places. There are states you can go, you improve their own economy, and it will show sense of inclusiveness, it shows sense of responsibility, it shows sense of cohesion.
All right, let's get back to the tax now. You know, some persons, like everything you've said, because you were talking about the fact that the government needs to live by example. There are a lot of government parastatals that pay taxes too. There are government officials that also pay taxes, because there are some things that if you want to do in this country, okay, they will need to look at your tax, all right, your tax papers and all of that. But this tax that we're talking about, this reform that we're talking about, some persons have really supported it, okay, like some tax experts supported it, and even the financial gurus. Yeah, the governor of Lagos State too, talking about Sanwo-Olu, have also said it is a welcome development. And looking at all of that, these people are also Nigerians.
Oh yes.
Okay, and we're talking about experts here who are in the front of this whole thing. So if these experts are saying it is good, and some persons are saying, well, these are the reasons why we feel something needs to be done. From the review that's going on, the review will happen today because the president have to give instruction that certain things should be done, reviews should be done.
Oh, yes.
What are you expecting from the review?
The review, for me, if you look at the summary of this tax reform bill, is centered on consumption. Most of the taxes that is expected to gain from there is geared towards consumption and not production. And if we go by the way it is and maintain it, believe you me, it will lead to more increase to a lot of things, both goods and services. If, for example, some of the things the Northerners are raising, we go by the way it is as it stands today. What it will lead to is that most of the food items that are being produced in the north, some states will look at taxing it. Some of the food items that we use to process into the final stages of consumption, they'll start taxing it, and it will reflect in the final consumer. So I think aside the consumption, we should look at the productive nature of it. Yes, I give thumbs up at the way we try to harmonize it and end the issue of multiplicity of taxes, simplifying some of the challenges. It's good. Just like I said at the beginning, it's a wonderful piece of work. But then implementation, it will be run by Nigerians. Ramsey, under the first tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari, Nigeria decided that we will go into full-fledged of digitalization of a lot of things, including NIN and BVN, with the aim of reducing insecurity. Did we achieve that?
Yeah, but
NIN?
I'm not saying. See, there are some things that are of intelligence that we may not know. So many things happens that we may not know. At a point, the issue of NIN actually came, and a lot of things happened. All right, in that aspect that some Nigerians don't even know because it was as a result of intelligence. Now, coming back to the action of the Senate, suspending every action concerning the tax.
After it has passed second reading.
Yes, it has passed second reading, but then there is one thing that we mustn't take away right here. A government that listens.
Yes, we give the current administration thumbs up in that area. Personally, I give it thumbs up because there are things you will raise, and germane issues. He will look at it. He is from the trenches. Of course, he struggled with us in the street. He's one of our mentors, leaders we look up to. So there are things you will raise, and if we see merit on it, he listens. Unlike other previous leaders we have in this country. So I give him thumbs up in that area.
So the Senate now, the action of the Senate, because Senate also had to bow to pressure to suspend every of their further actions concerning the tax bill as it is right now. Let me ask you this question: how do you think it will look like, looking at the economy of the nation right now, if this tax is being passed and everything? Because most of the things you've said so far, they are still speculation. You said most times we have these things on paper and we don't have them in reality. But now, what do you think will happen if everything that is in that reform comes to play? Nigerians are not paying multiple taxes anymore. Then the man who is doing that small business that is not earning up to $1 million is exempted from tax, apart from maybe the little taxes you pay when you do your recharge and buy one or two things. So what would you have to say in that area? Because if we want to give kudos to something, we know the concerns from some of our northern brothers is genuine. And it's part of the reason that the president has listened and there is going to be a review. But the other aspect of it, what don't you think that will contribute to good living for Nigerians? especially the average Nigerians?
Ramsey, to answer your question, some of the things I say are not just speculations, as you started with. I will use, for example, what happened last year in the general election as a case study for you. In the general election, our electoral empire, that's the independent national, I think INEC, came out with, what do you call it, regulations upon which they will run the election. And there were speculations, just like you put. People raise that they hear it's possible they could do this way. They talk about beavers transmission and so on. They came up multiple times, denied there will no such thing. In fact, beavers have come to stay. They have run it in off-cycle elections and a lot of things. We are in this country now, so there's not like speculation. On the due day, there was glitches. And at the end of the glitch, judiciary established that they are only the ones that can decide how to shift the goalposts at the middle of the game.
But that's a different ball game.
It's not a different ball game. You're talking about speculations.
No, you're talking about electronics here, which is bound to fail anytime. These things happen. We're talking about electronics. Yes. We're talking about election, but we're talking about a reform. That's a committee have sat.
That's part of the reform. That's part of the reform. We have a reform in 2022 that metamorphosed into 2023. That electoral reform was targeted at 2023 to improve it. It appears like 2019 appears to be better when we use a smart card reader.
Like 2015.
2015, thank you. Appears to be better than when we even use beavers. Because, let's just leave that. But I'm just trying to let you know there's no issue of speculation. A situation where a witch cries at night, a child dies in the morning, say speculation. There are a lot of beings I can stand here to mention. Look at Child Act. That's already domesticated, but there are states that have not domesticated it. That make it criminal offense for any child that less than 16 to be married off or engaged in many things. But it's still happening. Is that one a speculation? It's not.
So you're saying
so the tax reform bill is a wonderful piece of work on paper.
At the end of the day, we may not have what we have on paper right now. In reality, is that what you're saying?
What will keep us alive, healthy? If, assuming without the, putting a hold on it or pending, and it's passed today, we will be here a year after, and we'll review what we have passed, and you'll be marveled. Okay. You understand? Yes. So when it comes to some of the things, we look at antecedents where we are coming from and where we are headed. The primary aim of this government in doing this tax reform is to generate revenue. Yes, they may put up some ingredients in form of when you are cooking, you put some spices that will make it to look very tasty. That is where you begin to hear simplifying, modification and others, to make it look good. But the bottom line, the end of it is to generate revenue for government.
That's what it is.
You understand? But there are other ways we can generate that without even stressing the already stressed Nigerian people.
No, this one thing we need to understand is that this tax is not all about just Nigerians alone. We have companies. We have even income taxes coming from places like maybe organizations, companies, parastatals that also pay these taxes too. But then, finally, before we wrap it up right now, don't you think that if there is a good supervision, all right, because one of the things that a lot of people cry about in this country is the fact that people have been given assignment, things to do, and there is no proper supervision and accountability. If we have a very good supervision, let's just watch and see what the review will come up with today, because some persons are putting their heads together to at least consider the cries of the people from the north and the south, the west, the east, one or two Nigerians that have concern, okay, concerning the tax reform. But then, if we have a good accountability, all right, supervision and accountability, don't you think at the end of the day, everyone will smile, okay? Looking away from whatever speculation that has happened in the past, maybe that these things, we've had some reforms before that didn't work. What if we have a very good supervision and accountability and monitoring of this process?
That is what we yearn for. That is what I stand for. And that is what every good Nigerians will pray for. But over the years, at the end of the day, it doesn't happen that way. If these reforms will bring accountability, transparency at the end of the day, there are nobody that is against it will be an enemy of the country. Will be seen as the enemy of the country. But I have reservations. I can make a lot of up to 5, 6, 7 references of case studies that you bring such to. Of course, there you follow from antecedents of this reform now. The chairman of that committee, Oyedele, I have listened to him, watched him severally, and one of the striking things he mentioned is that all these months that they were doing these works, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu never interfered, either directly or by president government. You understand? So I love that. I love it. I give him thumbs up. In fact, there's no other way I can express it but to say that I love it. But when it comes to implementation, we have seen in this country where some government officials will use the name of a president to go and lie. And because you are the ones that to enforce or to implement, and you don't have access to the president, but he has access to the president, whatever he tells you, take it. So if it's a reform that will take away such influences, nomination and appointment from the executive or ruling class, and find a way to make nomination or appointment with regards to those that will manage on merit, why won't we embrace it? There are gray areas that we have faced challenges in the past, and these are the things we are saying. Anyone that we many times they will present wonderful piece of work, we will see it, just like we have seen with the 2024 budget that will be ending in few weeks time. Just last week we borrowed to meet up the deficit, whereas there are areas we can get that money without borrowing. There are people that are holding these monies that with good team they can recover those monies.
Just like these houses were being recovered now.
Just like names I mentioned earlier, that is on record, they recover 1.3, 1.6 trillion, and so on and so forth. You get them to work. Whoever else is God, just forget it and work for the good of the nation.
All right.
But at the end of the day, you begin to see interests, partisanship. You begin to look at the future, what you intend to achieve. If you step on this toe, then, of course, in this tax reform, we have seen subtle threat from Governor of Borno State, telling the president if he uses his executive powers on this, there will be consequences.
Yeah, that's what I think what he meant there is what will happen, all right? What will happen? The consequences he meant is what will affect the people.
It depends on interpretation.
Yeah, I think that was what he meant, because if you look at the cry, there were some things, some considerations that were being made, and he said this tax thing that we're doing, this reform is for the people, but if it is being done this way, it will affect people from this very particular region. He wasn't saying, well, the president has done anything around.
And that's one notable name, you know. Otherwise, made comments, made press statements, political about 2027 with regards to these tax reforms. So it depends on interpretation. Whoever that wants to interpret whatever is it. But as a seasoned politician that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is, he understands the language. He understands the message.
Okay, is that part of the reason there is this reform?
Most likely.
All right, most likely our time is up. We can't take more. We would have loved to dwell more on this because matters are rising. Like we know, there is a review that will be going on because there is pressure coming from different angles and from different Nigerians. Because if this tax reform is really for the people and of course to boost the economy of the nation, then nobody should be affected badly by this reform, and it's part of the reason some Nigerians are crying. And it's so good that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has heard the cry of the people, and there is going to be a review. It's going to be looked into again, probably by the Senate and even the committee members, and probably the people who are stakeholders as far as this tax reform is concerned. Thank you very much, Comrade Gerard Kachi, for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you for having me.
This is going to be the size of the second discussion and the end of Global Morning for today, Thursday, the 5th of December, 2024. Stay with us on Global Television because we have a lot of other programs that will be coming on your way today, and as it has always been, we are here to make your day beautiful. Thanks for staying with us on Global Morning today. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo, and Queen Agaba, of course, will be the ones steering the affairs of Global Morning for today. Thank you very much and have a beautiful day ahead of you. Bye-bye for now.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled as a strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.